You're now watching Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.
All right, Jimmy, I'm Paul Stone. It's time for our best bets. We look at the high-profile games, the games that are going to be looked at, draw the best ratings and probably the most handle. And now we'll get to the rest of the card in our best bets. Let's start in the ACC. That's right, another coast-to-coast trip in the All-Coast Conference. And, boy, you know, what a day it was. And, boy, it was just a little bit too long, just a little bit too much adrenaline on the front end. Cheap speed, maybe, but – man, Cal, game day. And, man, the students made it a festive atmosphere. It was electric in Berkeley. And it just, you know, it was a long time after game day that they kicked off. It was about 10 and a half hours game day concluded that they kicked off. But Cal was on fire, 35-10. But how do they respond after losing a 25-point lead to a top-5 team in the Miami Hurricanes? Now they have to get up off the mat, get on the plane, go coast to coast, and take on this upstart Pitt Panther team. Pitt Panther, Eli Holstein, that's right, local kid from down in South Louisiana. Played ball with my son. Saw him play really early. Not only can he sling it, he's a good athlete, man. He could throw down, dunk a basketball, and pretty doggone tough as well. Older brother was a quarterback at Louisiana Tech also. They're 5-0 straight up and 5-0 against the spread, and a lot on his shoulders. He has really been productive, and he's been clutch as well with a couple of big-time come-from-behind wins in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati and West Virginia. Paul, Pitt is 3 at home and 58.5 against the Cal Bears. And again, how do they respond after that tough loss?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the $64,000 question here, Jimmy. And as you mentioned last week, such a huge week for the Cal football program. The national spotlight shone on the Cal football program. ESPN's College Game Day, as you mentioned there, for the first time in school history. Indeed, a special occasion. Cal was playing its first ever home game as a member of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And also, as you indicated, the marquee opponent on hand as well, Miami, Florida. And with Cal ahead 35-10 midway through the third quarter, everything looked like it was going as scripted from the Golden Bears' perspective. But alas, Miami came roaring back, ends up with the controversial 39-38 victory over Cal. As you mentioned, it was a pretty long day. That game ended at 11:30 p.m. Pacific. 2:32 a.m. Eastern, so a little bit of an early morning for many of us. Now, as you indicated, it just all comes down to how does a disappointed and perhaps deflated Cal squad respond to, their next game. And they have to travel, which this kind of become commonplace in the new look Atlantic Coast Conference that stretches from sea to shining sea, but they've got to make a 2,500 mile plane trip across the country to the Steel City, Pittsburgh. And as you mentioned, the Pittsburgh team that is 5-0, they've shifted to an up-tempo offense. You talked about their quarterback, Eli Holstein, former Alabama quarterback, 5-star, 4-star type, big-time recruit. He has found a home there at Pitt. He has fit well into the new up-tempo offense that was brought to Pitt by Cade Bell, who was formerly the offensive coordinator at FCS Western Carolina. At Western Carolina, Cade Bell's head coach, who he coached under, was his dad, Kerwin Bell. And I know Jimmy and many others remember Kerwin Bell as Florida Gators quarterback back in the late 1980s. So Cade Bell is the guy kind of behind the new look offense with Eli Holstein at quarterback. And it just seems like this Pitt team with this new offense just getting better week in and week out. I just can't imagine this Cal team being able to capture the same type of focus, the same type of intensity as they had last week. So I think this is one of those situations where you lose one and maybe you lose two. So I like Pitt to win here by more than a field goal. Pitt -3 over Cal.
All right, so Pitt -3 to keep things going and improve upon that 5-0 straight-up record and 5-0 against the spread record. Going to staying in the ACC, but this is a little bit more recent members of the ACC. And Look at this. Louisville was supposed to be one of those teams this year that might be able to give Clemson a run, give Florida State, Miami a run, and even a little bit of Notre Dame. Remember, they smoked Notre Dame. Now, they lost this year when they went to South Bend, and then they lose again. They're 3-2 now, and now they go to Virginia. In Virginia, not many expectations for the Cavaliers this year, but it is not. It has been not bad. 4-1 this year, and their only loss at home to Maryland. They lost the turnover battle 4-0. You throw in another 0-for-1 on fourth down. That's a -5 in turnovers when they lost to the Terrapins at home in Charlottesville. But they've been very competitive in their experienced quarterback, Colin Drea. He is back for another year, and he is a spark plug. I mean, he kind of will make some things happen. He made some mistakes in that Maryland game, but that's the only one. He's going to clean it up the rest of the way. I think this is just more of a reputation line, but what is happening this year, I think the Virginia Cavaliers are getting a nice – I think this line should be closer to 3. It is over a touchdown right now at BetRivers at 7.5. I'm going to take the Cavaliers, the Wahoos, plus 7.5 at home against Louisville. And two teams that are – Louisville's not as good as preseason expectations, and Virginia certainly is better than preseason expectations, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on board with this one yet, but I certainly think by Saturday I will be, and I probably need to jump on now because – plus 7.5. If it goes to 8, that's not really much different. But if it goes down to 7, obviously you're losing a little bit of value there if you go down from taking the dog from 7.5 to 7. But Louisville off back-to-back losses to Notre Dame and SMU, so that's a little bit concerning. But you talked about Virginia's quarterback, Anthony Calandria. Man, that guy's he's a great athlete, kind of a gunslinger. You know, he's thrown 4 interceptions this year. He threw 9 last year. So if he doesn't turn the ball over, that's always the key with Virginia and Calandria. If he can protect the football and make some of those big plays, Virginia, I think could not only cover this number, but could win this game. For viewers out there who maybe like to get a wide range of viewing experiences and maybe not just focus in on the very biggest games of the week, Virginia's an exciting watch, and a lot of it's because of Anthony Calandria. He is, he kind of got that Johnny Manziel component to him almost. So, I certainly can see where you're coming from there. Louisville just not quite the same team as last year, and Virginia's been feisty.
Yeah, and Virginia winning at home against BC and playing good defense, and that's a healthy Boston College team, with their quarterback who missed a couple of games earlier this year. Let's move on to the Big 12 and one of the undefeated teams left in college football, and all of a sudden they're creeping up to the polls. This 12-team playoff, they're ranked 11th right now, and that is the wide-open Big 12 where Utah has a loss already. Oklahoma State has 3 losses already. Kansas State has a loss. So you've got a host of other teams, and Texas Tech is the only 3-0 team. Here's Iowa State. They had that come-from-behind win in the in-state rivalry against Iowa. Now it has provided them where they are 5-0 and still undefeated, number 11 in the country. They go to Morgantown. They go to Morgantown at night, which can be interesting. Keep your doors locked. Keep your sofas inside just in case for this one. Cyclones are 3 on the road in 52.5, Paul.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, Jimmy, are going to focus on the SEC and the Big Ten, and a lot of eyeballs, with good reason, going to be on those leagues. But for my money, this is the most interesting, exciting league in college football this year, and so much of it is just the depth of that league, the incredible balance in the Big 12. Doesn't have much to do with the handicap of this game, but to that point, the league this week, there's 5 Big 12 games. The largest point spread among those 5 games is just 6 points. 2 others are 3 points. 1 is a 4-point spread. The other's a 5-point spread. So you got 5 games, no point spread bigger than 6 points, an average spread of 4.2 points per game. So this is a really balanced league, and that speaks to that. I think sometimes when you look at a game and you handicap the 2 combatants, you look at the 2 teams and you're impressed with both. And that's kind of how I approach this Iowa State-West Virginia game. I mean, West Virginia last week, they thoroughly dominated Oklahoma State in Stillwater, 38-14, outgained the Cowboys by almost a 2.5-1 margin. 558 to 227. Really impressive by West Virginia. Not to take anything away from the Mountaineers, but as high as I've been on Oklahoma State for much of this year, boy, it seems like the Cowboys have maybe cashed in the 2024 season. But back to this game, if you give me one team today to win the Big 12 and make the playoff, I'm taking Iowa State. This is a veteran team, extremely balanced on both sides of the ball. They score 33.8 points per game, so they're quite explosive offensively, ranked 26th nationally in scoring offense. Only allow 11.8 points per game, so they rank 7th nationally in scoring defense. They've also won 6 straight road games dating back to the middle of last season. That includes, of course, a 20-19 victory at Iowa earlier this year. I think Iowa State, they are the class of the league, in my opinion, again. I'm going to sell high on West Virginia. Jimmy, they're not going to be burning any couches Saturday night in Morgantown. They're going to have to wait till next time. And a little bit surprisingly, this is only a 17-game sample, but West Virginia only 6-10-1 against the spread as a home underdog dating back to 2016. That includes the 34-12 season opening loss to Penn State. Give me Iowa State -3 to win by more than a field goal in Morgantown Saturday night.
Got to chuckle when people start to be critical of Matt Campbell. I mean, okay, tell me who has done a good job in Ames. I mean, it's a tough place to win, and he's at it again. So, he had a run, and he turned down some bigger offers to jump. But traditionally, when you have a little success there, you move on. Not the case, and he's still there, and he's got another good team, and defense travels, baby. He has got a good looking defense. Don't forget at BetRivers, our players can play same-game parlays on college football and NFL games to earn squares. Our exclusive Squares games offers additional chances at profit boosts, bonus bets, and many $10,000 jackpots. Visit BetRivers.com or the BetRivers app for more details. Let's get to my next win. I'm staying in the ACC and with Georgia Tech and North Carolina, and two teams going in opposite directions. That opening night, we were in Las Vegas, and North Carolina won that tough one at Minnesota. They won their next couple and said, man, they got a chance. Almost be favored in most of their games, and they got 70 dropped up on them on App State. They lost a 20-point lead against Duke, and now they lose again at home to Pitt. They're 3-3, and you wonder, after 40-plus years as a head coach at 73 years of age, is this about it for Mac Brown? I think it might be. And then you've got a young coach over there in Brent Key. 2 years ago in 2022, it's one of my favorite win totals under. Georgia Tech, brutal schedule and did not have a good roster. Lost a few of their players to the transfer portal, including the running back Gibbs, who went to Alabama that particular year. They started terrible. They're on their way to a disastrous season, and then they hired Brent Key. Great. He rallies them. 2 21-point dogs, straight out wins. They give him the title. Now he's 15-12. He took over a tough situation, and he's got this team playing good football. And now they're 4-2 this year. I love Haynes King and his dual purpose, type of style. He's tough as heck. He'll run behind his pads. He'll make some throws, and I just think it's kind of two programs, two coaches, two teams going in opposite directions. Don't like laying points on the road too much in conference games, but I'll lay it here. Georgia Tech -5.5. They should have a lot of success offensively as well. The total is 59.5, but I'm going with the Yellow Jackets -5.5. Mac Brown, I know you know followed him well. Paul, from App State to Tulane to North Carolina, Texas, back to North Carolina. But I just wonder if it's just we're close to the end here.
It would seem like it, giving up 70 points a few weeks ago to James Madison, and now on a 3-game losing streak. They just seem like they're headed south. They desperately need something good to happen. But, I have to agree with you. At his age, how much longer, even in a best-case scenario from North Carolina's perspective, how much longer would he coach anyway? And now with the program descending as it is at this point this season anyway, it might be one of those deals where they give him some options and maybe he can bow out gracefully and they can go a different direction, maybe a younger direction. But I have to agree with you. When you have two teams this time of the year, mid-October, and one still, Georgia Tech still got a lot to play for, that they're still kind of in the mix and playing well, and North Carolina just seems to be taking in water there. So I have to agree. Again, I don't like to lay points either, and getting close to 6 points, but I just don't feel like this is a game North Carolina's probably going to win.
All right, speaking of win totals, it was my favorite win total this particular season, and it was based on schedule, and that's the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and based on they were going to have a better team. They had a lot returning, continuity in the coach. Schiano, you talk about a guy making a return trip to where he's the best run they've ever had. And he's, it's slow. He's not doing it with gimmicks. He's doing it with substance. And they're getting a little bit better. They brought in a transfer quarterback. They were really poor at passing. So all of that's kind of panning out right now to this 4-1 record. And they're also not going to beat themselves. It's the case for that Friday Washington game. I mean, they know how to protect the lead, and they know how to shorten a game when they're in position to win. And here comes Wisconsin, much more success and, over the last 25 years or so. But they're trying to find themselves. Remember last year they were trying to go this spread. We got be careful what you asked for, and it was not exactly successful. Now Rutgers at home, but my question is, because they don't play Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and Penn State, I just wonder just how good they are. Schiano, they're pretty good, and they're at home here. They're 2.5-41 against Wisconsin. Rutgers on the year 4-1, Wisconsin 3-2, Paul.
Yeah, this kind of game that I like with Greg Schiano and Rutgers, when they're kind of fighting in their own weight class and they're not playing those teams that have such a talent disparity, a talent advantage over them. So you've got, first of all, looking back to last week, you've got a Rutgers team coming off a 7-point, a hard-fought 7-point loss at Nebraska, while Wisconsin, they enjoyed the luxury of playing Purdue, rolled to a 52-6 victory over the Boilers there in Madison. So you got Rutgers coming off a loss, Wisconsin coming off a win. I kind of like that from a Rutgers perspective here. This is predictably a run-heavy team under Greg Schiano. They run the ball 58% of the time. Cal Monangai, the running back, one of the Big Ten's best running backs, physical guy, has 667 yards through 5 games, averages 5.8 yards per carry, and barring injury, certainly appears to be well on his way to his second consecutive 1,000-yard rushing season. So I expect a heavy dose of Monangai Saturday against Wisconsin. You look at this Wisconsin team, and Wisconsin in recent years, they've really been good rush defense. That's one of the things, along with that offensive line, that kind of defines the Badger program. But they're not quite as good defending the run this year, allowing an average of 4.4 yards per carry. Alabama and Southern Cal both ran the ball with moderate success against Wisconsin. They averaged combined just under 5 yards a carry, 4.8 yards per carry to be exact. And I expect Rutgers to have similar success on Saturday against Wisconsin. Wisconsin, obviously, back in week 3, they lost their starting quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke. So they've had to go to his backup, Braden Locke. Braden Locke started, I think, 3 games last year, and now this is going to be maybe his 3rd start this year. So he's played a little football, but he's not all that adept in the passing game. Only 52% career percentage, completion rate, 6.1 yards per attempt, so really low yards per attempt average as well there for Locke. And he does turn that ball over a little bit. So when you're talking about 2 teams that play defense, you kind of anticipate a low-scoring game here. And I think Rutgers has a good chance to win that turnover battle. That can really loom large, even just +1 when you're talking about a tightly contested, low-scoring type game. Rutgers only favored by 2.5. I think the Scarlet Knights win by a field goal or more. Rutgers minus 2.5 over Wisconsin.
Now, we do thank Wisconsin for closing out our moneyline parlay right here on BetRivers, and I mean it was an easy mnemonic device. Military, New Orleans is a drinking town. Army, Navy, whiskey, Tulane. So that hit for us last week. So we do thank whiskey for coming in there. All right, my last pick this weekend. Our last pick is we going to South Florida and Memphis, and I like to reference a lot of our summer conversations, our preseason conversations, because, expectations and how teams, and maybe some branding and maybe some of the preseason rankings and how they affect some of the point spread values as well. Listen to Nick Saban when he talks. Most of the time when he talks and he breaks down football, he's not Xing and Oing as much as he's talking about the psychology of the game. And certainly emotion, psychology. I mean, do we need more of a case in week to week in Tuscaloosa and Nashville the last 2 weeks? I mean, it is tough. And now we see how they respond, after losing a 25-point lead when the first time ever their program is on the biggest stage. And, when game day, ESPN's pregame show comes out there to do it. And that's what I wonder about the Memphis Tigers, because how long do we talk about, they're the group of five. And, maybe this team, Liberty's got an easy schedule, but it's so damn easy. How are they going to get a whole lot of respect? They may have to win by default. Probably the best group of five team is Boise State, with that more than respectable tight loss at Eugene where they outgained the Oregon Ducks at their place. And we know they got the running back that's running wild, the Heisman favorite. I wouldn't advise that price right now. That's way too short for a non-quarterback in a non-Power 4 league. So, but there probably some value in some other place like Quinn Ewers and some others. Just a little tidbit there. But where is Memphis? We said this is the only game they're going to be underdog in. Florida State. They take care of business. It was not a fluke. They were the better team, and they beat Florida State. And then they go the very next week and give up nearly 60 points and lose to Navy. And you just wonder where they are, where that goal is pretty much gone. How much are they deflated? And this ho-hum 24-7 win against Middle Tennessee State gives me a little bit of an indication that their heads are still hanging just a little bit. They're not just as fired up to go to practice and certainly play on Saturday. South Florida has gotten banged up a little bit. Well, not banged up on the scoreboard, not necessarily injury-wise. They're a talented team and a more than capable team. At home in Tampa, they're waiting for the storm to go through. They moved this from Thursday to Saturday, but I'm going to take South Florida plus a 7.5 at home against Memphis, against what I think is a little bit of a deflated Memphis Tiger team.
Yep, this South Florida team was really a team I expected big things out of entering the season, and that very well might come to fruition. One thing to monitor here, and he's had South Florida's coming off of a bye week, so he's had some extra time, but their quarterback, South Florida's, Byron Brown's been a little bit banged up, but Alex Golesh said on Tuesday that he expected him to have a chance to return against Memphis. But I'm like you, this Memphis team, the Florida State victory, while it looks good, just at first glance, maybe that's not just a huge victory. Maybe they're more the team that lost to Navy. And, of course, it's difficult how to fit a game against Navy into your overall analysis of a team because of their unique offense. But, I think this is a game where South Florida, just the fact they've already got a couple of losses and their backs are actually 3 losses, their back's a little bit up against the wall, getting 7.5. They don't even have to win the game to get the money. So you got to expect South Florida, whatever they've got left in the tank, that they're going to come out swinging and, fire their best punch and give them their best shot.
One of the advantages of having a bye week, and now when we get to this point of the season, you'll see some of these schools strategically place their byes to try and freshen up and kind of get as healthy as they can in the season. Alabama, LSU do it every year. Alabama, Georgia both had a bye before they played this year. I mean, those are not coincidental. There's no doubt about that. Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott. We do it every week. We look at the high-profile games and the best bets here on Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.